Hey everyone, it's been quite a while. Once again, it's now essentially been a bit over a year and a half since my last actual video. So, where have I been? That's what I want to go over in this video. Not only where I've been, but also where I want to go, both in regards to Orb and this channel as a whole. So, let's start with where I've been. So basically, the short answer is university. Ever since that video, things have been getting more challenging with less and less free time due to things getting harder as we were approaching the final year of university. So I decided to put Orb aside to focus on my exams, as it was already my second and final attempt at them. I did this in the hopes of then coming back once the final year had started. However, when the final year did start, it ended up being more like a full-time job, since we had to work on two separate projects, one being a sort of final thesis project that required a lot of research as well as a playable project to go along with it. Now the second project for that semester was actually a group project in which we had to make a game for a client. Now unfortunately I don't think I can show any of it, as it was part of the curriculum and the actual project of the client hasn't been released yet. Now usually in the prior years my schedule looked a little bit more like this, with certain days being a bit busier and other days being either half empty or even completely free, which allowed me to do a lot more stuff on my own. However, with those two projects together, my schedule looked more like this, which essentially made university and in turn game development a full-time job for that semester. So the last thing I wanted to do when I came home was to then do more game development. Now, I'm glad to say that I ended up passing the semester with decent to good grades on both projects. However, that was not the end of the year, as there was still... This semester comprised entirely of a 4-month internship that we had to do, which for me personally was a first. I'd never done an internship before that, so a little nervous but excited. I ended up landing an internship with the position as a game designer, which is what I was aiming for, luckily. And again, I can't really say too much about this semester either, due to NDAs I had to sign. Now, while the first semester in time was structured more like a full-time job, this one was, in a more literal sense, a full-time job, as it was a full-time internship. Now, without giving any real details, I am happy to say that during my time there, I did learn quite a bit, not only about game design, but also expanding my knowledge on Unreal itself. However, despite those things, this semester again resulted in the same issue as the previous one, doing game development full-time and not exactly wanting to come home to then work on more of it. Now, that was a little while ago already, with the internship ending in June, so with both semesters finished, I'm glad to say that I've actually graduated. And not only that, but I've actually managed to graduate with distinctions, so I'm quite happy there. The actual ceremony hasn't been yet, but I did get the results, and yep, I've managed to finally get my bachelor's degree after 4 long years. I'd love to make a video about my experience as a university student, where I go more in depth and maybe show off all the projects that I made along the way, or at least the ones that I am allowed to show. Because that's one thing I do want to mention, is that I feel like a lot of people assume that I've just been struggling making this one project, but I have made a decent few games over the past few years. However, they're just school projects, so they didn't exactly get released publicly, with the one exception being the Game Jam submission that I posted. So yeah, in short, that's where I've been over the past year and a half. I do want to apologize for kind of just vanishing out of nowhere. Definitely wasn't my intention. It wasn't like a deliberate decision or anything to just stop uploading or working on Orb. Just studies, amongst other things, kind of started becoming more and more prevalent in my life and taking up more time as they went on, causing YouTube and interaction with the Discord server to sort of fade into the back as I focused on those things. But yeah, now that I'm finally done with university, I can focus on other things. Which brings me to the next subject that I want to talk about. Okay, so we've had the good news, and now time for the, well, not so good news. Now I want to preface this by saying that this isn't a rushed decision or anything. I have thought about this for, well, the entire time that I've been gone. So I'm just going to say it and then elaborate a bit. But I think it's time to put Orb to an end. Now, Orb is a project that I started while still in high school, before I even went to university for game development and design, and I've learned a lot of new things in my time there. And if I had the knowledge that I had now then, I would have done things very differently. One of the biggest issues with the game is a pretty common one, and that's the scope. It's just grown out of hand over time. It's a common mistake a lot of indie developers make, and I thought that being aware of that, I wouldn't fall into the same issue. However, I did, and I can see why it's such a common mistake. I guess the best thing to do with mistakes like those is to just try and learn from them. Now, of course, this isn't the only issue with the game, because if it was, it would just be a matter of lowering the scope and making a smaller project and cutting content. But there are a ton of fundamental issues with the game that make it not really fun to play or to even work on. One of them I realized quite late, and that's, well, the main mechanic of the game technically isn't even necessary. Let me explain. What I mean by that is that none of the other mechanics are complementary to it. They are to one another, but not to the main mechanic, being the orb and the interdimensional travel itself. I'm going to use Portal here as an example, since that's what inspired the game. And in the game, you have other mechanics like the weighted cubes, the plates, and the lasers. However, they all in some way, shape, or form interact or are affected by the portals. Meanwhile, in Orb, it's not really the case. You can pick up objects and take them to another dimension, but that's about it. The actual act of changing dimension doesn't affect them at all. All the other mechanics like the power cells and the nitro slots and the gravity generators, they work quite well together. However, they were all made with each other in mind, but not with the interdimensional aspect in mind, making them feel sort of disconnected. You could remove all of the interdimensional aspects and still have a puzzle game, which ends up making it not essential. And this issue seeped into other things like level design, where I would design a level for the sake of making a level, rather than making them fun or giving them a purpose to teach the players something. It was more a case of me assuming that I needed to fill a certain quota of levels per chapter. Since the first one had roughly 12, I figured that all of them needed that many. So because of that, the way I would design levels would be by drawing out a layout and then shoving all of the mechanics into that one layout. Once that was done, I would then divide that between 2 or 3 dimensions. This wasn't the case for every level, but certainly the majority of them, which ends up with a bunch of empty areas and making it a sort of walking simulator where you go one place, grab a mechanic, and just place it in the other one. Now, I'm not saying that it's not possible to make a fun and enjoyable experience with these mechanics in place. I'm just saying that what I was making wasn't the right way to go about it. And to actually make it fun, it would require a lot of fundamental changes and additions to the core mechanics. And, well, that would then increase development time exponentially again. Which then also brings me to one of the largest reasons for this decision, which ties back into the scope, and that is development time. Orb was a project conceptualized in 2017 and kickstarted in 2018. It is currently 2023. It has been 5 years. To put things into perspective, if I had to give a completion percentage of the project, with university and life getting in the way, I would say it's only about 35% complete, roughly. Since I've been working on it for 5 years, and 4 of those 5 years have been spent in university, busy most of the time. So it's not like I've decided to stop right as I'm at the finish line. So, to put it bluntly, I think it's time for me to stop and move on. And for that, I'm sorry. I know that's going to disappoint a lot of you. It's also why I've been dreading making this decision and, well, posting this video. Because the last thing I want to do is let people down or make them feel like they've been cheated. Now, I want to make sure that I'm being transparent and that I'm doing the right thing. So I'll be reaching out to all of the Kickstarter backers from way back who supported the project, and I will try to give them a refund. Now, I want to make sure that I'm doing this and not just like brush it underneath the rug, you know. Now, it's not something I can do right away all at once. It's something that'll have to be done over time, but I'll be making sure to send out emails and reach out to those supporters. So yeah, again, I'm very sorry for anyone I've let down in the process, and I hope you can understand why I need to do that. I'd love to give Orb another chance in the future, perhaps, where I can maybe get a proper team together, but for now, Orb is done and cancelled. Now, what are the plans going forward? Right now, things are still a little busy as I'm in the process of moving to another country. But once that is done, I would like to just pick one very simple game idea that I have and give myself around 6 to 8 months to realize it and properly release it on Steam as an actual project. I'm not 100% sure yet which project that I'm gonna make, but whatever I make, I want to do it properly. This time applying all the experience and knowledge that I've gained over the past 4 years, and I'd make simple devlogs with this time being more transparent about each aspect. Since with the Orb ones, I definitely didn't want to reveal everything as I thought, you know, it would lose some of the value of the game. So for this one, I want to be more transparent. However, for those devlogs, I do plan on changing my editing style a little bit, so just be prepared for that. I'm not exactly planning on making any specific release schedule either, or anything, just so that I don't, you know, fall into the same issue as before. But I do want to be transparent about what I am doing and what's going on there. It'll just be a small project that I want to make start to finish, just as a starting point and to be better at creating good scopes for projects. One final thing for those who are in the Orb Discord server, I've thought about what to do there as well, and I'm planning on making some changes and turning it into the channel server instead. So expect some changes in the upcoming days there. I do want to say that releasing this video is actually quite exciting in some ways, as it feels like a massive weight has been lifted off my shoulders. And also the prospect of creating a new project alongside being done with university and moving, it's essentially a new chapter in my life. Now I do want to say that this won't be my full-time thing right out of the gate. It will still just be a hobby, as my primary goal is first being able to support myself financially so that I can afford to keep doing this thing. And if that were to shift into me being able to do this full-time, that would be great too. That would be the ultimate goal, really. So yeah, big life update covering what I've been up to for the past year and a half and what my plans are going forward. Hopefully this video answered any questions as to where I've been or what I'm going to do. And if not, just let me know in the comments and I will try to answer them as soon as I can. So yeah, in short, I'm finally done with university. I'm sorry to anybody who I have let down. But that said, I am excited to be back.